Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 131 of the Runnin the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Ben, and Ben, we have got ourselves a series. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Yeah. Another great finals game. Just a great competitive final series is making me so happy tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are definitely going to get into game 4 of the NBA Finals. But before we do, let's get into Pirtle. Now, unfortunately, in the last episode that we did in person, Nick, Joey, and I really struggled with this Pirtle, and it ended our, I believe, 6-episode streak of getting Pirtle in 2. But it's time to start another streak, and maybe the streak is still alive if we're, doing it over online and not in person. So we'll see how this goes, man. We definitely need to bounce back after not being able to get Scotty Barnes. Ben, who is the first player we should guess to try to get back on the board here?
Kristaps Porzingis today.
All right, let's go with KP, Kristaps Porzingis. And all right. So we know that this player is going to be in the Eastern Conference, not in the Atlantic Division, not a center, younger than 27, and has a very small jersey number. It's going to be lower than 6, so not bad here. I guess the key thing is that this guy is just not in the Atlantic division, so it's not going to be the Celtics, the Sixers, the Nets, the Raptors, or the Knicks. Let's see here, man. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we could go, and it's going to be a younger sort of player. Man, I feel like we could get a good, solid guess here.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
What are you thinking? I think, let's see. I'm trying to think of a good player to try to get this in 2 or 3, because maybe we don't have to get right back into the 2 area, but maybe we go with some sort of wing player to try to get a better idea of the height.
Yeah.
So a wing player that wears a smaller jersey number and is younger. Let's think, man. We could go with one of Nick's boys who's playing, well, not really playing in the finals right now, but Jarris Walker. Jarris Walker wears the number 5. What you're thinking, Ben?
Oh, is that KP jersey number 8? I think.
Yeah, his jersey number is 8, but it would be highlighted yellow if it was
yeah, that's 2. Right.
So
yeah,
trying to think of those types of guys. Jarris Walker, who's another like wing player?
Like Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson. What do you think? You want to guess Jalen Johnson or Jarris Walker?
Let's guess Jalen Johnson.
All right, we'll go Jalen Johnson. That way we could get our division down a little bit. Jalen Johnson. All right, he's going to be in the Southeast Division, and he is a forward, going to be either 6'9" or 6'10", and he's either 22 or 21 years old. So this is a young guy, and it's either going to be the number 4 or 5 in the Southeast Division. All right, so we should definitely have this in 3. Automatically, first name that comes to mind is Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, same for me.
All right, let's go with him. Let's see if that's it then. All right. Paolo Banchero in 3.
It is.
There we go. Got him back in 3. All right, we're getting. Hopefully that can get us back. Better. Yes. Hopefully that can get us back going in some sort of flow here. Let us know how long it took you guys to get Paolo Banchero. But now let's get into Game 4 of the NBA Finals. And my goodness, this was absolutely incredible. Game 4 where, man, there were such huge implications heading into this game. For the Indiana Pacers, a chance to go up 3-1 in the NBA Finals, which only one team has ever come back from that 3-1 deficit. 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers. Shout out to those guys. And then if you're OKC, if you win this game, it's back tied up at 2, and you steal home court advantage back after losing Game 1 in heartbreaking fashion. And what we got was really 3 quarters where the Pacers looked like the better team and were playing very, very well. But in the fourth quarter, the MVP showed why he's one of the best players in the world, and he led the Thunder to the 111-104 victory. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 35 points. He was huge to even up this finals at 2 games apiece. Ben, you were over here to watch this game with me and our boy Jack. Shout out to Jack if you're tuning in. And this game was just absolutely incredible. Where do we even start with this game?
Yeah, so much action going on. With Shai, he was not having the best of scoring nights. He was not looking amazing, for the first 3 quarters, but he showed up in the fourth quarter and just was amazing and just did not want to lose, did not want to go down 3-1 so badly was Shai. He, just kind of carried and helped lift the team to win. And yeah, it's a tough loss for the Pacers. I mean, they had them for a while this game. Then the fourth quarter, things just kind of fell apart. They didn't really hit their shots in the last few minutes, and they had a rough time down the stretch in the last few minutes of this one.
Yeah, I think it is right to start off with the fourth quarter of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because, I mean, the Thunder were dead in the water. Even though it was like a 6 to 10 point game, which isn't, that large of a margin, it seemed like it was so huge and that this was the Pacers' game to win. I mean, they had looked like the better team in this game. Their defense was absolutely stifling on OKC. We'll talk a lot about what the Thunder need to do better maybe going forward because they're able to steal this game while not having a stellar performance. They had 11 assists total in the game and only made 3 3-pointers in the entire game. So, there's a lot of things that they need to clean up. But in the fourth quarter, when the Pacers were up by 7 and it looked like, all right, 1 quarter away from going up 3-1, this incredible historic season for OKC is about to go down in flames. The best player in the world this season, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, stepped up when his team needed it the most. He nearly outscored the Pacers in the fourth quarter. He scored 15 in the fourth. The Pacers only scored 17. And the stretch of shot making where Shai had the step back on the baseline, the pull-up free throw line jumper, the 3-point shot set on the wing, and then knocking down all those free throws in the clutch. I mean, this is the finals are where legends are made. And I kept seeing in the intermission between games 3 and 4 in the couple days or the one day, a lot of people say that in these series, game 4 for the team down 2-1 is where legends are made because usually the star player on that team down 2-1, like you said, Ben, does not want to go down 3-1, and they come up with a performance like this. And it took a while because Shai did struggle for the first 3 quarters on both ends of the floor, but none of that really matters because he took over in the fourth quarter and led his team to the victory.
Yeah, exactly. Just Shai coming through at the right time, and yeah, it absolutely wasn't looking so good for the Thunder for a while in this game. It was like before the fourth quarter, I wasn't too impressed offensively with them. Sometimes me and you, when we were watching the game, were like, what are the Thunder running here offensively? Like, what in the world were they doing? And they weren't looking like amazing defensively either for the first 3 quarters. But I mean, that turned up too in the fourth quarter. I mean, some impressive defense too. I would say they forced the Pacers into some more tough shots in the fourth quarter. So I mean, really, the Thunder just being somewhat close, up into the fourth quarter, then turning up in the fourth quarter. That's what helped them get this win.
Yeah, the defense was huge in the fourth quarter, like you said. And I think that's important to note as well, because, I mean, those are probably the 2 big storylines after this game is Shai's incredible fourth quarter And then the defense not allowing the Pacers to really score that much in the fourth quarter. I want to say that the game ended on like a 12-1 run from the Thunder. I want to see when the last the final Indiana field goal was, and it came with 3:20 to go in the game when Halliburton made a layup, and it was 103-99. That was the final field goal of the game for Indiana, and the defense was just fantastic, forcing some tough situations, forcing the Pacers into turnovers, leading to some transition opportunities. And I also thought that in those final minutes, the bigs, both Holmgren and Hartenstein for the Thunder, particularly Holmgren, did a great job switching onto Halliburton and Nembhard when those two were trying to get their shots off in the fourth quarter. And, in Nembhard's case, he got off a couple good shots there in the fourth quarter, a couple of good step back mid-range shots that just didn't go down. And sometimes it's a make or miss league. Nembhard's hit a lot of big shots in these playoffs. In game 4, they just weren't going down. They weren't going down. And, Halliburton wasn't able to get to his step back three a whole lot in this game either. He was just 1 for 7 from three. The only make was that incredible logo three in the first quarter when the Pacers were on fire. After that, he couldn't really get a good looking shot off. And I think all the credit has to go to OKC's defense.
Yeah, I agree. Tyrese Halliburton, he looked to be aggressive sometimes in the game, sometimes not. It was really just an overall okay game from him. I mean, I wasn't too impressed, but I mean, I think it's kind of smart about how he went about things, but I mean, down the stretch, I just think, OKC defended him so well that, man, there's not much he can really do. And Siakam was scoring it well all the way up into the fourth quarter, but then, OKC found a way to shut him down as well. So, Pacers, were shooting it well early and then just kind of fell apart. They had some open shots that they took in the fourth quarter, but they were just tough misses and they couldn't come through with a victory because of that, really.
No, I mean, the Pacers' two best players, Halliburton, I thought that, he finished 7 of 15 from the field. I loved it when he was taking the basketball to the rim. He had a couple nice finishes, that up and under reverse, a couple of those, scoop layups on the right side. Those were good attacks, and we hadn't really seen a whole lot of that from him. I thought that he was pretty aggressive, especially in the second half of the game. But, over the course of it, he just wasn't really able to get his shot off a whole lot. I thought he was making the right play most of the time, but he also had 5 turnovers, which is very high for Halliburton, who's arguably the best, passer in the league. And 5 turnovers is a lot for him. 4 for Nembhard is a lot. You have 9 turnovers in your backcourt. It's just not the best. And then, arguably the best player on the Pacers, Pascal Siakam, had another incredible game up until the fourth quarter. In this game, Siakam has 20 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals, 4 steals in the first quarter. I mean, I guess the Pacers entirely in the first quarter looked incredible to start off. That crowd was fired up. They understood the moment, and the Pacers got off to that unbelievable start. But in the fourth quarter, I don't know if Siakam even got a single stat. I didn't really see him on the court a whole lot, and they didn't really go to him a whole lot. Ben, what did you think?
Yeah, I noticed that too. And yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think they should have given the ball more to him, but I mean, OKC did defend them well, as I said before. Then, they tightened up on defense, did the Thunder then, and it's like, I guess Indiana just kind of more so wanted to go to whoever could get off an open shot, I guess, in the fourth quarter, really.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times they were trying to get SGA matched up onto, Siakam or Halliburton, or even TJ McConnell in that first half. There was a blow by there. And that was something I saw too. There were some plays where Shea just wasn't good enough defensively. I mean, like up until the fourth quarter, Shea was having a very lackluster game, as were a lot of the Thunder players. I mean, again, no, they had 11 assists and made 3 threes. I don't know if that, like the last time that you could win a game of this magnitude having those numbers. Like this season, I went through, there were only 2 teams this season that only made 3 threes in a game. And obviously those both resulted in losses. But, it's just something that you don't see in today's NBA. So the 3 threes ties for the least amount in the league this year. 11 assists is the second least in a game all year, regular season and playoffs. So this is just one of those games that's just so bizarre that the Thunder were able to win. But we've seen them do this before. I mean, they were in nearly the exact same position in round 2 against Denver, down 2-1 in the series. They were down by 8 points to start the fourth quarter, and they made the plays to come back and win the game. They do it again here in the finals.
Yeah. It blows my mind that they, won for 11 assists and 3 pointers. The NBA being more of a 3-point lead now, man, the 3-point thing is kind of hard to believe. But I mean, the Thunder, I did like their strategy though, of taking it to the inside of a lot. And they aren't the best 3-point shooting team in the world. They had some good shooters, but it was working, getting into the inside, and smart of them to do that. And they made a nice amount of shots near the basket that weren't threes, and it worked. It was just enough points to get the job done, I guess. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, you think it's impressive that they were able to score 111 points, only getting 9 points from 3. I mean, they only got 9 points from the 3-point line and were able to win an NBA Finals game in 2025. It really is incredible. You mentioned the shot selection kind of there. I mean, they got a lot of looks in the paint, a lot of mid-range looks, but again, the 11 assists, and this is something that I even talked about after game 3 during the in-person pod, and we saw it again in this game. There was so much one-on-one isolation basketball with not a whole lot of passes. I think that if I went back and watched all the possessions for OKC in this game, there's probably only an average of like 2 to 3 passes made in the front court on these offensive possessions max. Like, I don't know if there were any possessions where we saw the Thunder swinging it and around the gym to get a good look off. That's a big reason why they only shot 16 threes in the entire game. But Ben, what did you think of the strategy there of going with the one-on-one isolation basketball?
Yeah, that's interesting strategy. Yeah, I couldn't believe how many times that was happening too, as you were saying before. It, to me, it just seemed like when they were going to it, that it worked sometimes it didn't. It really just all kind of depended. And they did that more in the fourth quarter. Like, they gave the ball to Shea in the fourth quarter, which was smart. And I think the one-on-one thing worked was Shea in the fourth. Then that really helped, and I mean, it's interesting. I don't totally get why that's happening so much. That's another bizarre thing, and and it just depends on if it could work or not.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what you're saying. It's kind of, the story is kind of written by whether or not the ball goes in the hoop or not. Because in the third quarter, it looked very rough for OKC offensively because it seemed like it was only one-on-one basketball with Shea or J-Dub or even Caruso to start the fourth. Caruso, he took, I think it was Nesmith one-on-one at the end of the shot clock and hit a fadeaway. And a lot of credit has to go to those 3 guys. Shea, of course, but also J-Dub and Caruso, because those guys were huge. J-Dub, his second straight really good game in this series where he gets to the free throw line a lot and knocks them down. He was 11 of 11 at the line, 27 points. And Caruso, after not having a 20-point game all season long, has 2 of them in the NBA Finals. And in this game, it was huge because his offense was needed. In the first quarter, he had a couple nice takes to the basket, and he knocked down a huge 3 in the third quarter, I believe, and then, got 5 steals, which led to some transition opportunities. So those 3 guys, and also Chet Holmgren on the boards, I mean, those guys were absolutely huge for OKC.
Yeah, it was funny that Caruso had 20 points in this game, but I mean, he stepped up with the scoring. He did a great job with scoring off the bench. Overall, had a great game off the bench, brought in some green energy, I would say, off the bench, and he continued to look great defensively as usual. And I think, his championship experience, seemed to help the Thunder this game. I think he was really big as well for the Thunder this one.
Yeah, I think that was definitely huge in this sort of scenario. We saw OKC switch their starting lineup back to the double bigs in this game with Hartenstein and Holmgren out there. Cason Wallace came off the bench. Wasn't that huge. I'm wondering that if at some point in the series, if it comes down to some sort of elimination game in either game 6 or 7, if we'll see Caruso put in the starting lineup because of how well he has played. I wonder if we will see that at some point. I don't know. Right now it's working with him coming off the bench. And again, he gave them that bolt of energy and experience that is, absolutely necessary in a situation like this where you're down 2-1 on the road in a packed, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. That place was going crazy. We're talking about the shot selection a little bit and the isolation basketball. It kind of hit me why it makes sense to play iso ball against this Pacers team. I kind of understand it because it's kind of like what we saw way back when, I don't know way back when, but like a good, 6, 7, 8 years ago when we had the dynasty Golden State Warriors battling against James Harden's Houston Rockets, where I'm sure you guys remember the Houston Rockets were a very isolation-based team. But a lot of that was to slow the game down and force Golden State to play that isolation basketball, kind of like Houston, and get the Warriors out of their, fluent motion offense of moving the basketball, everyone moving around on the floor, cutting, and just getting good shots that way. OKC's plan here, because, the Pacers have been moving the ball and beating teams so much by, increasing the pace and getting a lot of quick offense that way. OKC is just like, all right, we're going to slow this thing down. Let's put it in our best players' hands. And in the fourth quarter, we saw Shea's making shots, and slowly we see the Pacers offense slow down a bit more as well. They're kind of playing the same sort of basketball that the Thunder are, which is getting away from the Pacers brand of basketball. So I guess the Thunder are kind of trying to, force the Pacers to play the same brand of basketball that they are. And, in this game in the fourth quarter, it worked. So I guess I understand if that's the reason, then it kind of makes sense why they're playing iso ball.
Yeah. Thinking back to it now, I think it was smart of the Thunder to play iso ball because, it slows the Pacers down. The Pacers like to play fast, and it could slow them down. I think prevent less transition opportunities for the Pacers by going with the iso and not rushing it offensively if you're the Thunder, and it can work really well if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sometimes. She's just so good at drawing contact that he was doing really well with that in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so it ended up working in this game in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't looking good that it was going to happen, and they kind of lost game 3 kind of playing that style of basketball as well. So I guess I'll pose this question to you, Ben, maybe looking ahead to game 5 a little bit, which is now a huge pivotal game 5. This is a best of 3 series with OKC getting 2 of the 3 potential games at home. Game 5 is going to be on Monday night, 8:30 on ABC, right back in Oklahoma City. Again, series tied at 2 games apiece. Ben, do you think that the OKC Thunder can win these finals by playing this way, by playing iso ball and, getting a lot of those types of looks off, not moving the ball around a whole lot? Because I will say, although it worked, again, they didn't get a whole lot of threes off. That's something that's a huge difference between like this Thunder team and what the Rockets were doing. If I'm comparing those two, teams, Rockets were against the mid-range and only wanted to get threes off. The Thunder, it was basically always an isolation into a mid-range shot or a layup or to the free throw line. Do you think that the Thunder can win the finals playing this style of basketball?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, I'd like to see some more ball movement, putting up some more 3-point shots. I mean, I would do it sometimes with Shea, of course. I would try to play slow offensively. I would pretty much not want to rush things offensively during the Thunder, because we know how good the Pacers could be when they get out of transition and play quick. So, I mean, I think do iso ball a little less because, I mean, it did work out in the fourth quarter of Game 4, but like before that, in like Game 3, it didn't really. And just do iso with Shade sometimes, play it slower. Really, I mean, you play slow a lot offensively, not rush things. I think you have a good shot to win the series as long as you're playing great defense too.
Yeah, that's where it has to work. If you're going to play that style of basketball, you have to make sure that you're getting back on defense and not allowing the Pacers to get going in transition, which they did a good job of in the fourth quarter. The Pacers were getting deep into the shot clock on a lot of their possessions down the stretch there. On the Pacers side of things, because we haven't really talked about, their play besides Halliburton, Siakam, and Nembhard, not a whole lot of great production from the other guys. Aaron Nesmith fouls out. He was good on the boards, had 9 rebounds, but fouls out in 30 minutes. Miles Turner, 12 points, just 2 rebounds, 0 for 6 from 3. Our boy Jack was barking at him every time he caught the ball. It looked like he was going to take a step back. Off the bench, Mathurin, after having an incredible Game 3, only makes 1 basket, 8 points. TJ McConnell doesn't really do much, after his, quick stint in the second quarter. Ben Shepherd only hit 1 3. Obi Toppin was good. He was huge in the third quarter to get the Pacers on that run. But overall, no huge standout performances from the Indiana Pacers. What do you think they need to do to combat the Thunder's style of play that we've seen from the last couple games?
They need to just find a way to, hopefully just get off a bunch of good looks, really get the ball movement going, and just hope you can get some big games from like your role players again somehow. I mean, that was huge Game 3. I mean, and it didn't get as much for role guys in Game 4, except I did think Obi Toppin played good off the bench, but gotta get good performances for the role guys. And then, I mean, you need Halliburton and Siakam to just be even better than what they were today.
Yeah, that's what you need in these finals is you need your best players to play like, stars and superstar. And we've debated it on the podcast, in the last podcast. The Pacers are a team that, while they're obviously really good, as we're seeing here in these playoffs, and still 2 wins away from a championship, they don't have a superstar on their team. I mean, they have Halliburton that has hit, clutch shots time and time again. But will Lightning be able to strike for them again, a 5th time or a 6th time in this playoff run for them to be able to close this thing out and get a championship? In order for that to happen, Halliburton is going to have to play a lot better. He was very good in Game 3, but really besides the Game 3, he hasn't been anything too spectacular, besides the end of Game 1. The shot at the end of Game 1 kind of masked the performance that he wasn't really playing that great. I mean, it's kind of crazy this series, what we've had in this series. We've had 2 games 1 and 4, that come down to the final minute, the final possessions, where the team that lost almost feels like the team that had the better game. It felt like OKC should have won Game 1. Feels like Indiana definitely should have won Game 4. Now it's even 2-2 in Game 5. And again, that's going to be on Monday night. And that's going to be, definitely an incredible atmosphere there in OKC. 8:30 on ABC. I guess another thing to note, I should say, about the game going forward is in the final minute when it looked like the Thunder had it. Pacers have made so many miraculous comebacks. They were playing, tough defense, and they forced a couple turnovers for OKC. And I guess 2 things about that. One of them is that, Benedict Mathurin at the other end got a steal, went to the rim, drew a foul, but then Jalen Williams went up to block the shot, and he landed right on his backside. And that looked like a really, really hard fall, Ben. So that's going to be something to watch going forward. Obviously, he's a super young guy. He was able to bounce back up and finish the game. But once the adrenaline, wears off and a couple days of rest, how could that impact him the rest of this series? Because that could be a serious back injury that the Thunder could be dealing with for an All-Star.
Yeah, I really don't know exactly what that can be with him. He looked fine getting up, I guess. He finished the game at least, so I guess it isn't too bad, but I mean, who knows? I mean, that'll be something to look for going forward. And also, Chet Holmgren saw during the game, his leg was kind of getting banged up. I mean, I wonder how he'll be moving forward too. I mean, it could come down to health. I mean, who knows? But we'll see. Definitely things to watch starting in Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers have been wearing teams down, the last couple of years, and ever since they started making the playoffs last season. And you're right, Chet Holmgren, that left leg ankle. Oh my gosh, dude. I mean, he turned it twice. And on the second time where he turned it, the very next play on a screen gets a knee into the thigh, or on the next play when he was going to set a screen. So both the second and third best players for OKC are definitely banged up. In Game 3, we definitely saw some fatigue there a little bit. So we'll see how, going back home could help them, because, being able to steal Game 4 is so important, because now you go back to OKC where your role players play better at home, as we've seen perfect evidence in this series. In Games 3 and 4, we saw Obi Toppin in this game. Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell in Game 3 played great. In Game 2, we see Aaron Wiggins and Alex Caruso both combined for like 38 points. So we'll see if the, Paycom Center crowd there in OKC can get the Thunder to another victory. When what's going to be a huge game there in Game 5. This is just great, Ben. This is going to be the first time where we have a Game 5 with the series tied 2-2 in 3 years. This is the best finals that we've had in 3 years, and I know both of us are absolutely loving it. What do you think is going to happen in Game 5? What are some big things that you have to watch heading into that pivotal game on Monday?
Well, I'm going to look for, can the Thunder just look so good defensively once again on their home floor? Can they, help slow things down for the Pacers like I was saying they should be, but still run some ISO like Shea. I think that could work. Will they go to that? And obviously, like you said before, we'll see could the Thunder go for the game all right, even if they're a bit banged up. And for the Pacers, I'm curious to see how they're going to respond, on the road after being shocked at home. And I think they're going to come out really hungry on the road. They like to, of course, ruin things for the opposing team's home fans, as we've seen before. And I think they're going to come out hungry trying to do that in this game. But it obviously won't be easy. They're going to need, hopefully, some big performances for some role guys like Benedict Mathurin. They're going to need some role guys to play great and lift them up, really, for them to have a good shot to win. But, you know, hopefully Halliburton and Siakam, of course, are playing well too. But I mean, I really think Game 5 is going to come down to how role guys do. I mean, I'm really going to be watching that as well.
Yeah, the role players are obviously going to be important on both sides. We'll see if the Pacers can travel once again on the road. I guess the two biggest things I'm paying attention to heading into Game 5 are which team's stars are going to show up for the moment. You'd expect Shea to continue to play incredibly. I mean, 4 games in, I guess this isn't another question in itself. I would probably say that 4 games in, Shea is the finals MVP. He's had 3 30-point games in the series, 38, 34, now 35 in this series. He just saved his team's season. I think he'd be the finals MVP. So you would have an idea that he's going to step up and have a big game. But outside of that, we kind of have a bunch of wild cards with these star players. Or I guess, Siakam's going to have a decent game. But even in Game 4, he has a great game on the stat sheet. He's playing great through 3 quarters, but goes absent in the 4th quarter. Halliburton, for as great as he's been in these moments, I think the thing that's holding him away from being labeled as a superstar is that he has these inconsistent games where sometimes he isn't being as aggressive. For Oklahoma City, Chet Holmgren has had to kind of change his role a bit this series. He's had to really work as more of a rebounder in this series and a shot blocker. And J-Dub was great in games 3 and 4, but he struggled a lot at home. We'll see if he has learned from these 2 games. So it's really, besides Shea, which star is going to show up? Because outside of the MVP and Siakam, you got a whole bunch of wild cards. So whoever has the 3rd best player overall in the game, I think is going to have a big advantage. And, this thing, number 2, the thing I'm watching for in this game, are the Pacers going to shoot well from 3? Because in this game, they shoot 30% from 3, 11 of 36. They get off to a hot start, 4 for 8. Then they go, 7 for 28 the rest of the game, 25% over 3 quarters, not hitting one in the entire 4th. That's going to be huge because looking at their postseason run, now, 6 losses in the postseason. 5 of the 6 losses in the postseason have come in their worst 3-point shooting games. I mean, when they shoot 35, this is crazy because I would say league average from 3-point range is about 35%. When the Pacers shoot 35 or less from 3, so average or less, they are 1-6. All their losses come when they shoot below the league average from 3. So they need to shoot the ball well in order to win this game. So I'm going to watch for which stars are going to play well and can the Pacers knock down their shots. But it should be absolutely incredible. Ben, what is your prediction for Game 5?
Oh, that's tough.
We got to hear it. We got to make them.
But I'll make it, obviously. I got to pick somebody. I think, who knows? I mean, it could go either way. It's a tough one to pick. But I'm going to lean the Thunder in Game 5, I think, the Paycom Center is going to be going crazy again with the home fans, and I just think they're going to be smart enough to hopefully go with what I said they should do in Game 5, and that Shea will have another big, great game, and that they'll be really locked in on making sure, okay, they play a full, great 48 minutes, and not let the Pacers come back, and that they'll find a way to get the W, but we'll see. It will be a good one and a big game.
Yeah, man, it's so hard to predict. I've been pretty confident about my picks in games 2, 3, and 4, which I have gotten right. I'll pat myself on the back. I've gotten games 2, 3, and 4 correct. But I had a pretty good idea of who I was going to go with in all those games. This game, I have no idea because, I mean, both of these teams play so well after losses. They're great at bouncing back. So obviously, you want to pick the Pacers, off that with them losing this last game. But man, OKC, after stealing that game and getting the home court advantage back, would they give it back up the next game? Man, it is tough to figure out what's going to happen. But I'll go with the Pacers. I'll go with the Pacers to get another road victory in one of the toughest places to play. I don't know why. I think maybe the Thunder's ISO ball is not going to work another game because really they were one quarter away from it not working in this game. So I think they're going to stick to it again, but the Pacers are going to knock down their shots and the Pacers are going to win game 5. But it is going to be so tough. I cannot wait for that game. Hopefully afterwards we'll have an in-person podcast here with all the guys and we can discuss hopefully what could be an incredible game and what has been an incredible finals. It's been great to have so far, and I cannot wait for Monday.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, just some really exciting times in the NBA here. You gotta enjoy it.
No question about it. And there's even some exciting things to talk about off the court. As you know, in the last episode of this podcast, we talked a lot about, besides the finals, we talked a lot about the New York Knicks coaching situation and the potential trade of Kevin Durant away from the Phoenix Suns. And incredibly, there's been advancements in both of those stories. So now we're going to get to hear Ben's thoughts on all this stuff. I guess first we'll start with the news from earlier in the week with the New York Knicks, where their first strategy after firing Tom Thibodeau was to call a bunch of current head coaches to try to pry them away from their current team. And the Knicks went 0 for 5 trying to get head coaches. And those included Chris Finch from Minnesota, Ime Udoka from Houston. Who else? Jason Kidd from Dallas, and then Quinn Snyder and Billy Donovan. Ben, I guess first, before we get to this next bit of news, what did you think of that initial strategy to go after current head coaches?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see the Knicks doing that. I didn't quite expect them to go in that route, but they're in New York City, so I guess their owner wanted to be aggressive with them being the Knicks and was like, all right, let's see if I can grab one of these guys. But no, it was an 0 for 5. And I heard you guys mention in the last podcast that you guys were kind of surprised that the Bulls didn't let Billy Donovan come to do it. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that too. But the Bulls somehow want to stick with Billy Donovan, I guess. And
Yep.
Now, since the Knicks feel with that, I guess their plan A didn't totally work. Now they're giving the plan B and interviewing Mike Brown and
Taylor Jenkins.
It's Taylor Jenkins, yeah. So they're trying to see if these like former head coaches that were good, but kind of surprisingly got fired, could be good guys for the Knicks potentially going forward.
Yeah, so that's the next bit of it. Planning to meet with Jenkins and Brown next week, who were both coaches this last year. I mean, they were both fired during the season. It's a while ago that Mike Brown was on the Kings, coaching the Kings, but he was there, at the beginning of the season. Now a couple days after the news of them going 0 for 5, I don't think it's as crazy as it kind of was because, I mean, I guess if you're doing your due diligence as a franchise, I guess the order you would probably go when looking for a head coach in this situation where you need to go from basically a conference finalist to even better, a finals team or an NBA title. I guess the hierarchy would be, all right, let's see if we can pry a current coach away. All right, that doesn't work. We'll go with recently fired head coaches. Okay, if we don't get that, then we'll go to assistants and first timers and all that. I think because it's the Knicks, it's being made public that all this is happening. I feel like this is a strategy that a lot of teams would take and try to, get current head coaches and to see what that looks like. Because sometimes teams will allow that to happen. But because it's the Knicks, it's kind of being made public, and now we're kind of all seeing this process happen. But I think the Knicks do have a plan, and they are just doing their due diligence. But I mean, it was a little funny at first glance that they fired Thibs, and their the first plan of action was to just try to steal another coach.
Yeah, that was kind of funny, but I think it was smart of them. I mean, why not? Who knows?
Yep. So we'll see when they, get their next head coach. I still think that Johnny Bryant, former Knicks assistant, currently with the Cavaliers, would be a great candidate because he's someone that has already been with, Jalen Brunson and that Knicks organization before. Ben, what do you think? Are there any other candidates out there that you think would fit the position to be the next coach of the Knicks?
Yeah, Johnny Bryant should also be one they look to interview going forward. He'd be a great candidate, obviously, with those guys before. And also, I mean, why not interview Michael Malone? I mean, he coached a long time with Denver, 10 years. I mean, eventually, it was unfortunate how he got fired with them. But I really think Michael Malone's a pretty good coach, and they should interview him too to see if he could be a good fit with head coaching the Knicks. Yeah, I mean, you just gotta interview these guys, Malone, Jenkins, Brown, and then, Johnny Bryant, and just really see if these guys could be the coaches that could elevate your team from Tom Thibodeau, or they could fit well and seem like a guy that could get along with the players well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting because the two guys that we've named, Johnny Bryant and Michael Malone, those are probably the two guys I think would fit that job the most as well. But they also haven't been reported in, getting interest from the Knicks either in this process, at least to my knowledge. So we'll see if they do decide to go with someone off the wall, or the guys that we've talked about so far. I think that Malone or Bryant would be really good, but they've been meeting with a lot of other guys prior just to see what's out there. So obviously they're not the super hierarchies on the list here. I guess between Taylor Jenkins and Mike Brown, if those are, two guys that are super interested, who do you think would be the better coach with the Knicks?
That's a good question. Oh, I would have to go with Taylor Jenkins, I guess, because, he does bring toughness like Thibs, and I think the players did get along with Tom Thibodeau on the toughness he would coach the guys, and I think Taylor Jenkins could do that too. I think Taylor Jenkins is a good defensive coach and stuff, but I'm thinking about this. I mean, would he really elevate them offensively? I mean, I don't know. I I think he now I'm starting to kind of change my mind. I actually think Mike Brown would be better because he, I mean, he could be, tough coach and that. Just thinking back to the Kings and when he was coaching the Kings would always seem to be pretty good offensively under him, and I think he could totally elevate the Knicks offense from where it was with Tom Thibodeau before. So yeah, I mean, with how you know Mike Brown can coach tough and can help elevate teams' offenses. Yeah, that's a great candidate to interview. Actually, so I'd say I guess Mike Brown over him now.
Yeah, I think I would actually go Mike Brown as well. For a couple reasons. I think one, the Sacramento stint was huge because of building up an offense that was kind of centered around a all-star duo of a point guard and a center with Sabonis and Fox, and turning that into a very good offense that first year where he was with the Kings and turning that around. I mean, that was a very fun offensive team to watch that year where the Kings were the 3 seed. And now with, the Knicks being led by Brunson and Towns, could maybe have some more creative things on that end as well. Offensively, it's obviously going to be important that the Knicks are more creative and they don't have to get bailed out in late game situations by Brunson. But defensively, obviously, they also need to get a lot better as well. And neither of these coaches are that crazy with that. Taylor Jenkins was a very good offensive coach. He had good defensive personnel there in Memphis. But Mike Brown, the other reason I mentioned the point guard center duo offensively, Mike Brown is used to coaching under the big lights, in different situations. Now, has it always worked out? No, but sometimes it has. I mean, you think of the spots where he's been a head coach at throughout his career. Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron during the first 4 years. He went to the finals in 2007 and coached the best player in the world during this, the first competitive prime of his career for LeBron. Coached the Lakers for a season with Kobe, coaching the Lakers is no, small feat. And then even being the associate head coach of Golden State, a championship team, and getting to learn from Steve Kerr and all those star players. I mean, you think of his career, Mike Brown has coached LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. He's coached under the big lights, under, big players, and he's a 2-time coach of the year. It's just, this man was the unanimous coach of the year in 2023, 2 years ago. Then, now he's up for another job. So I think he could definitely be a good man for the job. But that's a lot of Knicks talk. Let's move on to the final thing. Kevin Durant. We have some more clarity on this Kevin Durant trade that could happen in the next few days. A few days ago, we got a list of 5 teams that seem to be interested in acquiring Durant from the Suns. A few days later now, we get reports that the Durant trade could happen in the next few days. Maybe it happens during the finals. That'd be something else if that happened. But I think definitely before the draft, a Durant trade will happen. But anyways, we now have the top 3 teams that are the finalists to acquire Kevin Durant. We have the Miami Heat, Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Houston Rockets. Ben, what are your thoughts on these 3 teams being the finalists to get Kevin Durant?
That's interesting. Thinking about it, I don't really know how the Heat would be able to get him. I mean, they're trying to. They seem to really want him.
They try to get everyone. Yeah, they try to get everyone,
and they really want Durant. That's why they're still in the race. But I still think they're going to be able to pull it off because they wouldn't really have anything to give back to Phoenix that would entice Phoenix as much as with the Rockets and the Timberwolves. So I think the Rockets and Timberwolves definitely have better shots. Right now I'm thinking though most likely the Timberwolves could be the team to get them. I mean, I'm sure they would love to have a pair of Anthony Edwards, and I mean that would be such a good fit together. And Durant, could hopefully maybe elevate that team to getting to the finals potentially next year. be interesting to see what the Timberwolves would have to give up in a deal like that. They would have to give up a couple of good players, I would guess, obviously, from their team this year. But I think, yeah, there's a shot that the Timberwolves and the Suns could make something good work that they agree on. And same with possibly the Suns and the Rockets. I mean, the Rockets, they have some great draft capital stuff. They have some good young players that they could move to the Suns that could entice Phoenix, to agree to a trade like that, as long as, the money could work, obviously, for both sides. And Durant, the Rockets will get him. That would be great because he could really help mentor the younger, talented players that are there still. And, the Rockets didn't really have a number one scorer who was great, and they have that in Kevin Durant, at least, for a few seasons, I guess, coming up, if they got him, to try and help elevate the team. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I can't wait to see how this Durant thing goes down.
For Minnesota, I think that would be a great fit. Of course, Anthony Edwards playing with his, one of his favorite players, Kevin Durant, maybe his favorite player. Of course, they have the history from that one series in the playoffs just last year. I guess first, if that were to happen, and we'll obviously talk about it then, it'd be so hilarious to see for the second time Kevin Durant, lose to a team and then basically immediately end up on that team the next season or the year after. We obviously infamously lost to Golden State when he was with the Thunder and then signed with them. Got swept by Minnesota last year with the Suns and could end up on their team this season. I'm sure that'd be something that would be talked about a lot. But for Minnesota, in a potential trade, besides Anthony Edwards, obviously he is untouchable. You're probably going to have to give up one of Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, or Jaden McDaniels, who are all three huge players, of course, for that team. Out of those three guys, who is the player that the Timberwolves would want to keep the most and not want to include in this trade?
I would say good question. I mean,
tough. They all have their own
keep
value.
At least one of your big guys, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I would say
it's tough. I mean, one of those. I would assume one of those guys have to be traded because they all make huge money.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved off one of the big guys, but I mean, I don't know. I just picked Naz Reid kind of just because he's a favorite on the team and he's a good center. I mean, I think he's around as good as Gobert, but I mean, I guess Gobert is the even better defense. It's tough. I mean, it'd be tough losing any of those guys. I mean,
yeah, especially. I mean, the plan would probably be. I think their best case scenario is probably that. Well, maybe you trade Randall for Durant, and that's just a quick, easy swap, for those two guys.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying Randall because I mean, I feel like Julius Randall when it fit the best, they got Durant on the team. That's kind of why I'm like, he should be the one I would want them to keep the most out of those guys. And
yeah. I guess probably
kind of tricky.
That is tough between Gobert and McDaniels, who you would want to keep the most.
Yeah,
because the plan could be trade Gobert and then you have money to sign Naz Reid to an extension or re-sign him to a new deal because he is a free agent this offseason. He's going to get some money from some team, whether that's the Timberwolves or some other team with cap space. We'll see. But if the Wolves have a vacancy at center because they trade Gobert to the Suns, which could be interesting low-key because the Suns do kind of need a center, even if they go in some sort of rebuild thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Rudy Gobert, it's not bad. It's not anything crazy, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely interesting. I think Randall's probably the most likely one to get swapped for Durant because he's the guy that just got there. And, I thought he played extremely well. It would kind of be tough to see him get traded after changing his game to fit the Timberwolves and it working out so well. They played so well in the playoffs. But that's probably the one that makes the most sense because I think Jaden McDaniels could take a big step offensively. I mean, we saw it in the playoffs. He was huge in the Lakers series in the first round, at times in the second round in the conference finals. So McDaniels and Gobert, you probably want to keep those guys. But McDaniels, I think, is definitely the number one guy that you want to keep because he still probably has the most potential among those guys. But that's definitely a tough question. Let us know what you guys think amongst Gobert, Randall, and McDaniels. Who's the guy that Minnesota should want to keep in a Kevin Durant trade? Now to the other side for the Houston Rockets. Now their thing, it's a little bit different because, I don't know how many untouchable players they have on their team, even though they were just the second seed in the Western Conference. To me, untouchable is probably Amen Thompson, and then I guess Şengün because he was just an all-star. But which guys in a Kevin Durant trade are you saying to the Suns, if you're, Raphael Stone, the Rockets general manager, who are you not even talking about in a trade? Who is untouchable for you if you're the Houston Rockets in a Kevin Durant trade?
I would mention Şengün, of course, and I would say Amen Thompson too. Those would be my two. Everybody else, I would say I'd be open to possibly moving if I were them, and it would just depend on how the money and all of that could work.
Yeah, because they're a team that could desperately use some of that scoring that Kevin Durant can still bring. Because this is a guy, obviously, we're late into his career. He just finished up, his 18th season in the league's incredible. But he was still amazing. He's still one of the best scorers, shooters in the game. I'm pretty sure he just had his third straight season, Durant did, of averaging 25 points on 50% from the field and 40% from three. I mean, it's incredible. The guy can still score with the best of them. And the Rockets, if they were able to get Durant, that could shoot them up a few tiers in the Western Conference. And because of that reason, I think in a trade, I would agree Şengün and Thompson are probably the only guys that you would keep untouchable. But in that same case, though, why would the Phoenix Suns want Jalen Green? Because he's the next best player. Why would you want Jalen Green when you already have Devin Booker and you already have Bradley Beal, and Beal you can't trade?
Yeah.
So, that's what makes it super difficult. If you had to choose between Green and Şengün, that might be the guy that you have to trade, and then you have to make it work some other way. Or maybe because Durant is older and he's on the final year of his contract next year, the Rockets are somehow able to keep all three of those guys, Green, Thompson, and Şengün, and it's a deal that's made up of like Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith, Cam Whitmore, maybe Reed Shepherd, maybe the 10th pick in the draft this year and other firsts. There's a lot that could happen, but either way, I am super excited. I guess final question before we get out of here. Who would you prefer to see Kevin Durant on? The Timberwolves or the Rockets?
I prefer the Timberwolves because him and Anthony Edwards would just be such a fun duo, and I think that would be the place where he would have the best shot at being able to possibly win another championship in his career if he were to get traded there. But I mean, he would still have a shot at the Rockets, but I mean, it'd be harder because he'd be with a young team that needs some more experience and just, big, he would be on an even better team with the Timberwolves than the Rockets, really, if he were to go there. But I would have a lot of fun watching him at either team.
Yeah.
If he were to go to the Rockets and Jackson Goglin, our buddy, was happy about that, I'd be excited and happy for Jackson with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I think you're probably right. I'm sure Durant would probably prefer a trade to Minnesota because You're right. Those guys are ready to compete. They were just in 2 conference finals. They are ready to take a next step. And they also kind of need it in their own way because back-to-back years, yes, they make the conference finals, but they lost in just 5 games in both series. And, against Oklahoma City, there's definitely, it's Oklahoma City and then everyone else. We saw that in the regular season. We've seen it in the playoffs, besides when Denver gave them that run. So there is still a jump that could be made from Minnesota. And since those guys are kind of ready to compete, that might be the better situation. But I would love to see Kevin Durant on the Houston Rockets and be their number one guy, no question about it, and not have some sort of crazy all-star alongside it. Of course, Şengün was an all-star, but, not like a superstar around him, because that's kind of been the stigma around Kevin Durant throughout his entire career, is that he's never led a team. That's kind of been the stigma, is that is Kevin Durant a real leader? Now, I don't really play into that a whole lot because Durant is an amazing player. He might be the greatest scorer that we have ever seen with just his, incredible ability and shooting and that size. But he has played with a lot of superstars in his career that at times could bail him out if necessary. I'd like to see what it would be like with him trying to lead a young team to that next level. I would love to see that happen. But I'll say I would prefer if he ended up on Minnesota, because we are kind of in the stage of the league where we are getting duos, and boy, Edwards and Durant would be a fun duo to watch. So maybe by the next episode, we will have a trade with Kevin Durant. Maybe it'll happen. That'd be something great to talk about. But for now, it's all about Game 5 of the finals, which again is on Monday. Pacers Thunder back in OKC, 8:30 on ABC Monday night. And we will be back to break all of it down. Hopefully it's another incredible game between those two teams, and it should be a lot of fun. Ben, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for more NBA postseason content. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.